Hey there, I'm Andrew Gaughan and I'm a knitwear designer based in Asheville, North Carolina, and right now you are watching the 5th episode of my knitting podcast. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you enjoy this half hour or so of me updating you all on what I've been up to. I have a design that I've finished and a design in progress, as well as a couple other in progress things that I'm going to be showing to you. And if you're tuning back in, welcome. You might have seen I had a little bit of a summer hiatus. It's been, I think, a little over a month since I did my last episode, but I had a couple weeks in there where I had a lot of family visiting. I'm not sure if I've really talked about this, but I've lived in Asheville for about a year and a half now, but my mom recently moved to Asheville and my husband and my mom and I are all living together now, and we had a sort of like housewarming party where a bunch of my family came into town and saw the house we're all living in, and that was really fun. But definitely during that period I went to kind of bare bones of my work, and podcasting is one of the things that didn't make it, but I had a really good time and I'm ready to be back. And I also I'll get into it later. Alright, well, one last thing I want to say in this introduction is that I want to thank you so much if you're a subscriber. I just the other day hit 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which is tiny for a YouTube channel, but big for me. Definitely filming video content is one of the harder things that I am putting myself out there trying to do. I could work and write knitting patterns all day long, but then all the marketing parts and actually getting out there are a lot harder for me, especially when I need to talk to a camera. But you have all been so kind and leaving sweet comments letting me know that you're watching and you're interested in what I'm up to and giving your thoughts and feedback and advice, and I really appreciate it. So thank you to anyone who is one of those 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate you being here. And if you're not already, of course, you should also subscribe and you will get updated when I put out new episodes of this podcast. And then on this YouTube channel, I also do like tutorials and some one-off videos. Like a bit ago I did an AMA that I'm actually going to wrap up hopefully in the next couple weeks with a more design-focused AMA, like talking about my design background. Anyway, for today, I'm going to jump into first showing you my only finished object before then we get into the lots and lots of WIPs that I have going on. Okay, got my finished object here, but I also want to mention briefly what I'm wearing. This is one of my Helianthus samples, which is a super basic tank. I worked it to a crop length, but it's easy to extend the length to any length you want. This is a design that I released last summer, and I have instructions for a stripy version like this, as well as solid versions. I've actually made 2 solid versions. And I really like this for just like go-to easy to wear summer top. It's a cotton linen blend from Ritual Dyes called Undine that's so wearable and it just feels really nice. This is if you're familiar with that yarn, there's a fingering and DK weight version now. And this is the fingering weight. DK weight didn't exist last summer when I was making pattern. These colors are Natural, Summer Peach, and Forsythia. And I feel like they're just so perfectly summery and nice. And I get a lot of wear out of this one. Okay, so my first finished object that I'll show you was in progress last time I recorded. It is now finished, and it is my Stripetastic Sweater. And as you can see, it is a drop shoulder sweater with a large section of stripes all the way across the chest. And the stripes continue across the back, and is a crew neckline and shoulder shaping. So it has, I don't know actually if you can see what I'm holding up. Let me get closer. So it has shoulder shaping to have a gradual slope to the shoulder to help this armhole fit at the appropriate point. And this is intended to be a really oversized sweatshirty type fit, and I definitely achieved that. Ooh, it's so warm. It is definitely too warm to be wearing right now. Okay, let's see if I get back here how big I can show you. So it's definitely like oversized sweatshirty. It's very loose and comfy. Feels like a lot for right now when it's nearly 80 degrees in the house, but I really like the oversize for when it's warm, especially for taking out like a sweatshirt thrown over on top of whatever else I'm wearing, and has very relaxed sleeves and that classic drop shoulder fit. Okay, I don't know that I have much else to say about that. And I love how the rainbow turned out. These colors are so pretty. Okay, so I'll sit in this for a sec, but I don't think this is going to be able to stay on very long. Really happy with the neckline. I wanted classic crew neckline, but not anything like suffocating. Ah! Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm caught on my earring. Okay, I don't know how I managed to like perfectly snag that, but we solved the issue, we got it off, and it was way too hot to even wear that for a second longer. But I will tell you a bit about the yarn this is in, and it is, do I have any? I have some full skeins. I can show you the label. Oh, I have the colors for my next version. So this is Sonder Yarn Co.'s Sunday Morning DK, and it is 75% BFL, which is blue face Leicester, and 25% Masham, and it is a beautiful kind of gray base. Come on. There we go. It's a beautiful gray base that these colors have a really nice depth to them. So this color is not one of the ones in the original sweater. This one's Toast and Honey, and this one's actually different base. This is flat white. This is not focusing. Usually this is way better. But I think this is actually, she has two like listings on her website, and all the colors in my original sample are like this one dyed on a gray base, but there's actually a lighter color base that there's some light colors. So these are colors I'm going to use for my second version. But I'll have listed below all the different names of the colors. I do not remember all the names of the colors I used in this rainbow one. But so my idea for this sweater is to just have a super basic sweater pattern and have options for knitters to make any kind of striping combination that they want. So originally I was just going to do this, but then everything about the pattern besides where to start the different colors would be exactly the same for a huge amount of different stripe possibilities. So I am going to do different versions and then include in the instructions how to come up with your own striping scheme or how to do a variety of different ones. So for my version with these colors, I'm going to do this white color as the main and then do thin clusters of stripe in the yellow. And then I have a version I am currently making for my husband, which is actually the first sweater I've ever made him. I'm not very far into it. I'm using these three really pretty colors. We spent way too long talking about color combos, but I'm really happy with where we went. This is like his ultimate favorite color, deep, really dark plum. And then this neutral brown gray is going to be the other main color. And then there's going to be like thinner contrast color stripes of this nice rich red. So let's see which one's it's attached to the purple right now. So I've just only started a bit. I just did the ribbing and the brown, first thin stripe of red, and then I'm going to do thick stripe of purple. And it's going to alternate between a thicker chunk of this brown and a thicker chunk of the purple with thin stripes of the red in between. And this is very, very in line with the kinds of colors he likes to wear, and also the colors I like, so I feel like my samples will all look nice together because they'll all be well, being totally different colors, you know, sort of be in the same color family of colors I use in my designs. At least that's the hope. And then my thought was I really wanted to make a 4th scrappy version because I have a bunch of leftover of the rainbow colors. Then I'm inevitably going to have leftovers of all these other colors, but I'm thinking it's quite unrealistic that that one's going to be actually done by the release, which is set on being in the first half of October to come out before Rhinebeck. And I just don't think there's any way I can knit all of them by then, but maybe I'll just at least have a swatch of the scrappy stripe version as inspiration. But my test knitters who have been working on this for I think about past like 3 to 4 weeks are making so many cool color combinations. I actually made some like Pinterest boards with different ready to wear sweaters as inspiration just for the different striping possibilities, and people are doing really cool stuff. So I'm excited when I have the release to, I always love sharing the tester versions just to show a design on different body shapes, sizes, heights. But particularly this time I'm excited to show all the different striping combinations because I know sometimes, well, most people are creative. It can just be, it's not always easy to think of how many different possibilities there are with a base design. So hopefully they'll extra get a show that you can just, there's a huge range of different striping possibilities that create a totally different look with just the same base sweater pattern. So hopefully I will have some more progress on James's version to show you next time. But I will move on to the next thing. Okay, I'm going to briefly show you my Willow sample I'm working on. I don't think I've really made all that much progress on this since last time I showed you. I can't remember exactly, but this is becoming probably my most urgent WIP after my in progress design, because this is set to be a pattern that comes out in the beginning of September, so that's only a month away right now, so I really gotta get this done. But this is a second version I'm making of my Willow Pullover that's in testing, and I think I might have a tiny bit left in the body, but the body's nearly done and I'm close to ready to split for the front and back. And this is a pattern that's worked in a basket weave stitch that has little eyelets to produce an open effect, and this version is knit in a fingering weight yarn with mohair, so it creates a completely different feel than my original sample, which is DK weight. So not gonna talk too much about this, but this is almost a reminder to myself, work on this. Especially because I don't want to have it just be ready a month from now. I want to be ready with plenty of time to take pictures and make sure that is ready before the release. Okay, next WIP is the thing I've been enjoying working on the most, and it is a Colorwork scarf. Oh my god, it's so big. Oh, I love this. Okay, so it's not even halfway done because I want it to be, I'm going to put tassels on the end, but I want it to be very long, probably like this long. So I want to be long enough to go around once and come back the other side. So it'll be very generously sized. And all it is a tube of this beautiful Colorwork pattern. And it's worked in a fingering weight yarn in the round. You can see all the floats around the inside so that it's completely two-sided with the pattern on both sides. And then I also want to make a cowl version with a twist in it. This is probably nearly as long as the cowl would need to be. Maybe a bit longer. Yeah, I think I want the cowl to be like more generously sized since it's quite wide. I don't want it to be very tight fitting, so. But this version is going to be a scarf, and I'm going to do a second version for the cowl in a dark green and the same white. And then this yarn is actually the same yarn that I used in that Willow sample, but without the mohair, and it is Biches and Bûches Le Petit Lambswool. These are my two colors. They're so perfectly Christmassy. I love it. I love that it's really, really Christmassy, but not so Christmassy that it would be... It's Christmassy, I feel, at least, in like a general wintry kind of way that it wouldn't seem like you're wearing something with reindeer or something. I don't know. If it was February or something, I still feel like it'd be plenty appropriate because it's just wintry. And these are the two colors I'm using. This is gray beige, and I believe this one's called... This gray beige is the same color that I'm using for the Willow Pullover. This red one's called Dark Red. Pretty simple. But I think when I ordered it online, maybe because of the name, I thought it was like an even darker red, but it's pretty bright. It's a pretty bright color, but I think it's really perfect how they look together. So this is making me so happy to work on. I actually originally started this design because I have so many designs that I work on that are garments, involve a lot of shaping, and I'm not only like doing shaping every row for a lot of it, but I'm constantly monitoring if the shaping is working out the way intended, if it looks nice, if it's fitting well, and I really wanted something to work on that would just be for the fun of knitting, and this is that project for me. I love working on color work. This motif is perfect because it's a long enough repeat that every row is different for quite a while. Like you're constantly switching up the pattern you're doing, but then it follows, once you've done it a couple times, it follows a pretty logical, with the symmetry and everything. It's not too hard to read your knitting and be able to just make the motif based off of that. And I don't know, I just love color work. And this yarn is so perfect for the color work. This isn't even blocked yet, and I already feel like it's like filling out the stitches really well. I know it'll be extra beautiful when it's blocked. And this is also just something that I know is like kind of a basic pattern, that it's a tube, even though I'll have instructions for how to nicely finish it and put tassels on it for the scarf version, and then instructions for how to seam it together to make a the cowl version. Still, compared to a sweater pattern, it's quite basic, but this is something that I obviously know I really like knitting, and then something I know I will really like wearing. And I actually don't have any scarves, but it's something that I would definitely wear for both the practicality of having something super warm to keep me cozy, and then I feel like you could have whatever kind of jacket and this would make it look like you have, I don't know, something fun and interesting going on. So yeah, this has been my happy project, but as you can see, the main theme of this podcast is that I have too much to knit to try to get my patterns out in the order that I want to this fall, so we're gonna have to see what happens. And I feel like, you know, things come out when they're able to, but also with this one being so Christmassy, I think it would be best to release it like in at least November. So if someone that wants to knit it for Christmas, they could have time. But I'm kind of thinking with this one I might start the test knit before I'm actually done, which I never ever would do for a sweater, or as long as I have one sleeve finished, so I've done all of the parts of the sweater. But I know how it's going to turn out, and I'm only going to need a couple testers for this one. So I might sneak that in my newsletter, which is how I put out test knits. I might sneak a test knit that is going to start before I'm actually done in order to have some tester versions done by the time the release happens. But honestly, I don't even know that a pattern like this truly needs a test knit, but it'd still be good for read through the instructions, make sure everything's clear. I might do like a video tutorial for the tassels, so I could do like the tassels for one end, have that video tutorial, and then kind of knit along with the testers, but we'll see what happens there. Okay, I think we are ready to go into my main thing I've been working on for the past month and a half, so let's get into it. Okay, so the main thing I've been working on over the past month and a half, well, those have been kind of my background projects, has been the Belmullet sweater. And so first I made this entire halfway done version that was bottom up and with a wide cable pattern, in a wide honeycomb pattern in the center, and then flanked by these cable motifs on either side with a little section of double moss stitch between them. But I got to the front neck shaping and I decided after all this I was going to make the design top down. So I rewrote the whole thing and actually did a first little version. I've basically just been a little too demoralized by all the work that went into these. I haven't undone them yet, but at least I can show you my steps along the way. But now I have a real going version of my top-down version I'm really happy with, and everything should be smooth sailing from here because the shoulder shaping and neck shaping are the most involved parts of the pattern, and I've just joined together the front and back for the body, so the body should be smooth sailing. It's just knitting straight in the round, and then the sleeves are going to be pretty basic. They have some shaping to them, but the shaping is all done in this double moss stitch. There's no shaping in cable pattern, so this is my very first cable sweater design, and basically doing any amount of shaping in the cables was way more involved than I thought. So it begins with short row shaping in the back. So I've charted out exactly how to do these short rows to create this gradually sloped shoulder on both sides, and then the front is picked up at each shoulder, and then the front is actually just knit straight, and then the neck shaping is done symmetrically on both sides of the neck and joined at the base. And you can see then you get to the point where the cable motif matches on both sides. And I don't know if you can tell between these two versions, but I ended up decreasing how big that central honeycomb was. So originally this was going to be the entire width of the neck was going to be honeycomb, and I switched it so the width of the neck is honeycomb plus these first set of basic cables, and I feel like I was happier with the balance there. And then it also gives so that these small, this is a size B, so at size A and B have a better amount of the seed stitch, double moss stitch I mean, on the sides, and I am really happy with it. And then also I think these bigger, bolder cables will be more positioned towards the front and more visible when worn. But anyway, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and although at a lot of points I was like, is this horrible? I'm basically making a completely different sweater by making it top down instead of bottom up. I know lots of people are huge fans of top down, and so hopefully that will be a benefit for, I guess, marketing, that it could appeal to more people. But what I was thinking with doing it bottom up is that everyone would get comfortable with the stitch pattern, and then the shaping would be easier. But the shaping actually, as opposed to my Willow pattern where the stitch texture is the same, and then you really can just eliminate stitches, and I'm not putting this great, but to make a slope in a consistent pattern is a lot easier than to make a slope where you're going through a whole bunch of different stitch patterns. And so things are changing the whole way. And so what that means is that for it to be top down like this, this is completely charted out for each size. This is completely charted out for each size. This is charted out, so it's a very chart heavy pattern. And I thought that I would be able to just do the body chart and then say shape in pattern, but that was going to be way too complex. So basically I'm putting some more upfront work, and I'm not unwilling to do upfront work. I just don't want to make things unnecessarily complicated. And so that's what I was trying to avoid. But basically, I think the summary is this is necessarily complicated. But in the end, I think that I've done the work in creating the chart, so following the charts and actually knitting the pattern, it will involve attention because you have to follow each row exactly until you get to the point where you're just knitting straight and you can get more in like a rhythm where you're understanding what's going on. But I've done the work of figuring out where all the shaping needs to be, so it should be pretty straightforward for a knitter to be able to follow that. And then once I get a little bit more of the body done, I'm going to pick up around the neckline and knit a folded collar. And I'm really excited about that. The design always looks so much more real, and like you can imagine what's going on once the collar's there. So I'm going to kind of speed ahead to that as quickly as I can. And that also allows me to be, I think the neckline is looking really perfect. That it's wide, but it should be perfect crew neckline once that collar's there. That allows me to really better evaluate that the fit is on track of what I am wanting to do. Okay, so this design, I will talk about the yarn I'm using. Oh, yeah, I do have full skeins. An extra one. So this is my first time using this yarn, but I am so into it. It's extremely nice to work with. It is Kelbourne's Woolens Lucky Tweed, and it's a Aran weight yarn, and it is 100% merino. Let's see here. Yes, 100% merino. It's 210 yards per 100 grams, so definitely a thicker yarn, and it is made in Ireland and is this Donegal tweed. Let's see how well you can see it. It's pretty subtle, but it has little flecks of yellow and blue are the main colors that just give it like a little bit of depth and interest. I think some of the other colors, like the darker colors, have this tweedy effect more pronounced, but I like how subtle it is in this color. This is called Cream, and it's really just a little bit of blue and a little bit of more yellow. And I'm going to actually be making a second version of this as well, and that is because this is going to be my first design that has completely separate men's and women's sizing. And that's something I want to talk about for a second. I know it's been a recurring theme to try to figure out how to do this. And my goal is always to have a pattern that can fit as many people as possible right off the bat with no modifications. Like including those modifications in there ready to go for people. But no matter what you do, everyone has their own individual unique body. People are going to need to make modifications, and that's great, and I strongly support that. But a very common theme is that if a man wants to, well, there's so many things going on because there's sizing and then gender all mixed together, but if an average size man wants to knit a knitting pattern, most of them are graded based on a women's sizing chart, which means the bicep measurements, lengths are based on average of women's population and not average of all population, and definitely not average of men's population. And then of course, any woman can be not very near, or they can be similar to or not similar to what's an average woman, and in terms of size. And a man can of course be close or far from what's an average men's size, but as a whole, men's sizing for the same bust circumference or chest circumference, based on the circumference measured here, an average man is going to have a deeper armhole, larger bicep, longer arms and longer torso, and a broader chest. And all of those things contribute to it being less likely on average that a man is going to be able to knit a knitting pattern based on a women's sizing chart and get a fit that is really good for them. And so what I've done in a couple of my patterns is offer multiple body length options and sleeve length options, and that does a lot, I think, especially in one like my Stripetastic Sweater that is meant to be very relaxed. The depth of the armhole and broadness of the chest, so there's already a lot of excess fabric, or there's a lot more fabric than there is body there. There's a lot of wiggle room for sizing, I think, in the side depth and bicep circumference. But this sweater isn't meant to be the Belmullet sweater that I've been showing you. Isn't meant to be close fitting by any means, but it's not as, it's more, the fabric is much more structured because of all the cables. It's not as super stretchy and loose as just stockinette, and it is more of an average relaxed fit. And so I've decided that when I did the change from making it bottom up to top down, I also split the grading into two completely different sets. One graded on a women's sizing chart and one graded on a men's sizing chart. But I'm still unsure exactly what I want to call these in the pattern, because I know that gender is not a binary and not all people fall into being a woman or a man. And I don't want to make it seem exclusive of anyone who doesn't identify with either of those gender identities. But I also kind of feel like once you start calling them something else, it can provide less clarity on what the difference between the sizing is, because I can say, basically what I think I'm going to end up saying is that there's fit 1 and fit 2, but then the explanation is going to be fit 1 is based on women's sizing chart, fit 2 is based on men's sizing chart, and the difference is the men's, relative to the woman, has larger bicep circumference, deeper arm side, longer arms, longer torso, and broader shoulders. But I don't know. I'm kind of torn between being like, oh, if I just call it women's and men's, people at least have enough context to visualize or imagine what the difference is between that list. That's a big list of differences, you know? But anyway, I think I'll call them fit 1 and 2 and just have that explanation. And then instruct anyone to just choose the fit that is closer to their body type. And if there's someone that has long arms, long torso, broad shoulders, they should make fit type 2 regardless of what their gender identity is, and vice versa. But I don't know, I feel like what's been challenging with this is that the whole point is to get better fit for more people and to not have a better fit for just people of one gender subset, but then trying to make it more inclusive, I'm running into issues of how to be certain I'm presenting the options in a gender inclusive way. So anyway, if you have thoughts on this, if you have seen ways other designers have approached this that you felt have really been good, as in they've been clear, provide good options, and are able to use gender inclusive language in a way that feels welcoming for anyone of any gender identity to knit the pattern and feel like it's made for them, let me know. Also at the counter, if you've seen ways in which this wasn't approached well, maybe you don't need to tell me, you know, call it out, a specific pattern or designer or whatever, but, you know, examples of what you think hasn't worked well. I feel like more feedback on what people are really thinking about this would be helpful for me, because it's just something that I think about, and I want to know what you actually appreciate and what you think. Yeah, so let me know. And I'm going to be knitting a second version for my brother and be doing that type 2 fit based on a men's sizing chart. And he actually has the exact same bust circumference as me, chest circumference. And in the pattern I call it bust / chest, because on a woman it's the circumference at the widest part of your torso, upper torso, and on a woman's, I think even in most knitting patterns it's called bust circumference, so that's already not really gender inclusive because not everybody has a bust. But yeah, the bust / chest circumference, widest part here. My brother and I actually have the same measurement, which is crazy because he is a lot taller than I am, and he's kind of a skinny, narrow person, but definitely has broader shoulders and broader chest than I do, but my having breasts makes up the difference. I guess that we evened out at exactly the same bust chest circumference, but he is just like the chart. He has definitely broader shoulders, deeper armhole need, much longer arms, much longer torso. So that will at least, well, the main point is to be able to visually show to people that the pattern is graded to be gender inclusive, because I know I can say that in text, but actually seeing it on 2 different people and seeing the differences is gonna, you know, make that clearer to people. And also it will be a test of how did these 2 sizing works. I'm not like the perfect average woman and he's not the perfect average man, but it will start to give me some real life feedback about how the differences between those 2 fits actually work. And maybe I'll get more into the inspiration behind the design next time, because I've already been talking about it quite a while, but it is inspired by traditional Irish Aran sweaters and Aran motifs, and we are Irish. Our grandparents moved to the United States from Ireland when they were both in their early 20s. They actually met in New York, but they're from the same region of Ireland. And my grandmother is the one who first taught me to knit, so there's a lot of special things about this design that were particularly important to me. I'll kind of get into just like relation to the traditions in that country and my personal having been taught to knit. Anyways, but I thought it will be extra cool for this one that me and my brother will be able to share the photo shoot together. And I am sorry to my sister that she's gonna get left out. I have 2 siblings, and she's actually currently away in Scotland for the entire year, so she wouldn't be available for the photo shoot anyway. But I did tell her that if this goes well, I would really, really love to make a button-up / and/or zip-up version, and that maybe when I do that, I can make her version so we can have our little family set of matching sweaters. But as you can see, I am not able to take on any more knitting projects at the moment because I'm trying to do too much. I'm assuming if you've gotten this far that you are a knitter, so you might know that knitting takes time, but I've been really coming up against the wall of being like, the rate at which I can get out patterns is based on how fast I can knit, and I think I'm a pretty fast knitter, but as you probably know, it takes dozens of hours to knit a sweater, so it's pretty big time investment in each of these, and that's something I'm working on, trying to figure out the balance of. But something that I would really appreciate from you all, if you have any of these patterns that you're particularly excited about, I always feel like I appreciate getting to gauge just from like, you know, basic stuff like Instagram engagement and comments on YouTube, what patterns knitters are actually excited about, because it helps me to then evaluate if I'm spending my time well. Like if all my time is being eaten up by a design that isn't really seeming to resonate with people, not something people are really excited about, can be like, okay, that's the thing, that's, if everything's not going to be able to fit, that's the one, you know, that has to go. So if any of these designs I've been telling you about are of particular interest to you, and just in general, please let me know. I really like to make sure I am actually listening to what people like and making sure that I'm putting stuff out that people are going to be excited about knitting and wearing. And the Stripetastic Sweater and Willow, they already have set dates. Willow in September and Stripetastic in October, so those are definitely going to come out. Those more, it's a question of if those additional samples are all going to be ready in time. But between the Colorwork scarf and cowl and this cabled sweater, just let me know if that's something you would be interested in knitting, and I can kind of try to see which of those two I want to prioritize being able to get out if it comes to choosing one over the other. Okay, anyway, thank you so much for sitting here and listening to me talk about knitting. Again, if you are not already a subscriber, please be sure to subscribe, then that way I'm going to try to get back on my every other week schedule, but especially if there's a break, you can make sure you're always able to find my newest episodes. You should actually be able to turn on notifications. I think there's like a little bell symbol down there, so you can actually get a little pop-up notification, but of course you can always go to the folks you're subscribed to, and my video should show up whenever I put a new one out. And the last thing I want to say, I think I mentioned this, but if you are interested in test knitting the cabled sweater or the Colorwork scarf / cowl or any of my other designs, please be sure to sign up for my newsletter. I am switching to now selecting people who sign up for the test knit via my newsletter before even opening up the public test call. So that's always been my recommended way to make sure you don't miss a test call, but now I'm actually prioritizing people on my newsletter as testers. So definitely be sure to sign up for that. I'm going to have a link to that below, as well as link to yarn information about all the designs I talked about, and then link to pattern pages for, I guess, just this one. This is the only one I've talked about that's actually out. But okay, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.